In this chapter, we're going to look at what is content, how can we present content on a page, how can we organize the content so that it makes sense in relation to other content that it's near, and so on and so forth. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, let's open chapter 4 and let's get out of split view for a minute. And what I'd like to discuss in this video segment is the list elements. They're a great way to separate content from each individual piece of content and to also add some semantic meaning to the content itself. In other words, an unordered list means something different than an ordered list, and a definition list means something different than either of them. So let's look at how we can lay them in and what it looks like in the code view when we do. So let's refocus here. We'll create a line return, and then what we can do is item, and then up on the top toolbar we can hit bullets. Now take a look in the code and you can see that UL, unordered list, list item, UL. Let me just put a couple more items in. Now let's say when we go into this third item that we have items that would be relating to it. So what we can do is press tab on the keyboard or hit the increase indent button. And more than increasing the indent, what you can see in the code, here let's just do a couple. You can see in the code that what it's done is within this list item, and you can see it here and here, it's created an other unordered list. So what we really have more than an increased indent is a list within a list. Let's say we want to come back out to the outside list. We can do Shift Tab on the keyboard or decrease indent, but we'll just do Shift Tab. And you can see that it's closed the list, the inner list, and created a new list item. So we can put item, item, item. And this construct of list within a list can actually occur even within the context of another list. Watch, we'll go like that, and we can do sub item. And you'll see what we have here is a list within a list within a list. And it can become very, very deep. So that depth lends itself more to instructions and so on and so forth that would be better represented in an ordered list. So let's start an ordered list. We can just type step 1, and you can see in the code as well as in the design pane that we have OL, ordered list, and list item. So let's do step 1, step 2, step 3, and then we're going to put some sub-steps in. So we'll tab in, and it creates a new ordered list within the list. So sub step 1, sub step 2, and the same thing will happen if we tab in. We'll get and you can see I'm going to highlight this. So you can see that we have an ordered list within an ordered list within an ordered list, and it can become very deep. With cascading style sheets, we can also style these to have a number of different parameters and look almost like anything we want. As a matter of fact, this navigation segment here is an unordered list, and we've just styled it heavily to look like what we want. The last list I'd like to touch on is a definition list. So let's go term, and then what we'll do is we'll select this. There is no button for definition list. It's a fairly seldom used list, but we can do definition term. And then if we come down, this is the definition of that term. And you can see in the code how this would make sense even to a screen reader or a search engine spider. DL, definition list. DT, term. DD, definition. And then it closes that definition list. Let's say we want to come down one more. We can go term, definition. Now, let's say we want more than one definition. That's not a problem because we can just take that definition term, come up to here, and give it a definition. So you can have multiple definitions. As you'd find in a dictionary or any other, you can have multiple definitions for each term. And this is how that definition list works. It's fairly valuable to explain to a screen reader or a search engine spider that you actually have a list of terms and definitions. It's in the code and it makes sense to these non-human readers as well as to human readers. You can also style this so that it looks more like the definitions and terms you might see in a dictionary. So that wraps up the section on the lists. In this segment, I'd like to show you some really interesting things that you can do as far as inserting pictures into a web page using Expression Web. So let's just get ourselves into a blank line. So I'll just come down like that. Now, what we want to do is insert picture from file. What we're going to do is browse up to the location where this installation package occurred. And so that would be Microsoft Press, Expression Web 4 step-by-step, and files. And I've got a purposely huge picture in here. It's fish out of water JPEG, and it weighs in at 815K, way oversized. So let's double click that. It asks for alt text, so we'll just put fish out of water. And you can see that it's very, very large. It's pushed the, this is a good time to do panels, auto hide all panels. You can see that it's pushed this page way, way, way out of proportion and basically made a mess of it. So here's what we can do. We'll double click this and then go to appearance and specify size. That's 2400 pixels. We want it to be around 500 pixels. Keep aspect ratio in place and then say OK. And let's find her again. And there it is. Okay? Now, if we click it one more time, you can see this little picture actions here. This is what we want, because while this picture is showing at 500 wide by 375 high, it's still the original picture and weighing in at 815K. So, resample picture to match size. And basically what that'll do is resample the picture and make it physically have the same size as the size that you've specified. And we'll hit the save button and it'll want to save it because we've changed it. Now, if for some reason you don't want to affect the original picture, you can hit rename and give it a different name, like resized, and then hit OK, and it will save it in the images folder under that name. And that's a real big time saver. Rather than have to exit Expression Web and manipulate a picture, then come back to Expression Web and insert it, you can move a lot faster by just dropping the picture in and then resizing it. So there you go on images in Expression Web. We've already explored how we can resize this and resample it. Let's look at one more thing. Right-click it and you can do Open with Expression Design. I feel fairly comfortable showing readers how to use Expression Design in order to do rudimentary image manipulation, because Expression Design comes with each version of Expression Web that's available. So you will have Expression Design if you bought Expression Web, or no matter how you got Expression Web, you'll have Expression Design. Okay, and we'll drag it in here and open it up. And I would like to do View. In fact, I want to zoom out a little bit more than that. All right, so let's take this picture, and let's say we'd like to get a lot of the sand out of there and take it from there. So, while in most image editing applications you would have a crop tool, you don't have that in Expression Design. What you have instead is a slice tool. So we'll slice the fish, and we'll go back to this pick tool so that we can square this up a little bit more. And then we can come down to our status bar and give it a width of 256, and we'll unlock these two, and we'll give it a height of 256. So that's square. Now that we have our square slice around this object, what we can do is right click and export. And then in our export dialog, what we can do is export slice as slice1 PNG. Let's name it square fish. And instead of a ping, let's use a JPEG. We'll push the value down to medium. It'll make for a smaller file size. And what we'll do is we'll go to No Containers, and then we'll browse to where we want to put it. And in this case, where we want to put it is the site we were just working in. So we'll come down to Microsoft Press. We'll come down to Expression Web 4 Step by Step, sample site, and I'd like to put it in the images folder, and then say OK. And no container, and basically a container is whether Expression Design makes a web page to put it in or a Silverlight canvas to use it with. Finally, we'll click Export All. And that's it for that. So we'll close this out. We don't want to save our changes to that particular picture, so we'll say no. We'll take this picture out, and then we will return our panels. We can open the images folder and look for square fish. And there it is right there. So we'll drag it from there and drop it into that paragraph. We'll give it a alt text of square fish, and there it is. So we have a lot more subject with a lot less background, and all the while we're taking up a lot less space. And that's pretty much all there is to it. We can push this back to Expression Design if we like and add other effects, and you can see that in the book. There's another segment where we add a drop shadow and turn the fish a little bit and do a little bit more advanced image editing in Expression Design. But for now, just as long as you know that this is the way to roll it into Expression Design, you're going to be fine. And that's it for editing images in Expression Design. In this video segment, I'd like to show you how to use Adobe Photoshop files in Expression Design. This is kind of interesting. So let's give ourselves a line break, and then we will do Insert, Picture from Adobe Photoshop. And we'll browse to the same location we've been browsing to, and that's Microsoft Press, Expression Web 4. And in this case, we want to go to the files. And I've got this psimport.psd. So we'll select that. And then Expression Web will open up the import Adobe Photoshop file, psimport.ps. So here's the neat thing. We can throw away this layer, and let's see what else we want to leave. Face painting by Nina, Expression Web 4 Step by Step. So we'll leave those. And we'll encoded as a JPEG with a quality of, we'll leave it at the default of 75%, an estimated 25K. And then we just click OK. It wants to know where we'd like to save the image. When it converts it to a JPEG, obviously the images folder is fine. And it wants an alt text. And the reason that Expression Web wants an alt text every time is because it's required. Every image must have an alt attribute to be valid. And so there's the picture as a JPEG. And you can see that it's in images psimport-psd.jpg. And there's the picture. So really, really easy way. So if the art department gives you Photoshop files and you want them on a web page as just a common web format such as JPEG or PNG, real easy, two-click step to do it. And that's all there is for the importing of Photoshop files, except for the one other thing is, if the Photoshop file changed, let's say the art department changed the image, you can always right-click it and then do update from source. So as long as the source is changed and you hit update from source, it'll run you through that same import Photoshop files dialog and the updated image will appear. So there you go. For the final segment of this chapter's videos, I'd like to show you how to use a Deep Zoom Composer project in a web page. So what we're going to do is give ourselves a line here. Now there's a couple of ways to do it. You can always do Insert, Media, Deep Zoom. If you do that, you'll be able to browse to the Deep Zoom project and Expression Web will try to recreate it. There's really very little reason to do it that way. So I'm going to show you a better way to do it. And the way we'll do it is File, Import, File, and then we'll ask for a folder. We'll go to Documents. It'd be nice if I could find my Microsoft Press, Expression Web 4 step-by-step, Files, and what we want to do is use the Deep Zoom Composer collection. Seadragon Ajax is a composite. The collection is better, and I've also set it up to look exactly the way I wanted it to by editing it after it was created in Deep Zoom. So we'll bring that in. We will add it to Files, which is exactly what we want. And then when this completes, we will be able to embed the content of the Deep Zoom Composer. When the import completes, you can just close it out. And then what we're going to do is we need a toolbar, because this is a little trick that I've developed. We want to do View, Toolbars, and we want the standard, because there's a button on here we need. And that button is the include page. So we have our focus point in this paragraph. We're going to do include page, and then we'll hit browse. We'll go into the files. There's our collection-deep zoom folder that we brought in, and there's the default page. So we're going to take that and then click OK. And there is the Deep Zoom object. We'll save this. We'll close that toolbar just to make our UI a little bit more appealing, and then we'll click the preview in browser. Keep in mind, with the Deep Zoom, you want this to run through the Expression Development Server. Let's scroll down where we inserted that Deep Zoom. And there it is, right in our page. And because I worked it over a little bit in the Deep Zoom Composer, we have some graphics around the edge that match the rest of it and everything else. Now, here's the cool thing. This is a slideshow. So if I click play, it'll zoom in and then go to the next picture and the next picture and so on and so forth. Let's pause it and return to the home. And we'll grab these ducks. You know what? Let's go back. I want to grab this because it's a little bit more profound. Watch how deep. When they say deep zoom, they really mean it. You can either use this or you can use your scroll wheel on the mouse. Now look at that. I mean, I'm going in there so deep on this flower that it's unbelievable. And the way that it works is kind of neat because it stacks up the pictures and then delivers greater and greater detail as it's requested by the user rather than load up a mega picture. Look at the depth of that. I mean, that just blows me away. And so I like to use deep zooms where I can because you can show a lot of detail without giving up a lot of real estate. Look at that. Right in on those individual pieces of seed on that weed. Really, really cool. And so by using that method of importing your Deep Zoom Composer files and folder and then using the include page off of the standard toolbar, you can get real good control over how your Deep Zoom Composer presents on the page. So I hope that's helpful to you, and I hope you take a look at using Deep Zoom Composer because in my opinion it's really, really neat. In fact, check this out. We can even go to full screen on it. And then we could zoom in on these eggs. That's just incredible depth. And then to come out of the full screen, just hit escape on your keyboard. You can hit home and it'll return it to the original set. And that's it for that. I hope you enjoyed that.